Hello, this is Patrick at OneCNC West, and what we're going to do in this training video is take a look at how we can use OneCNC to program a part that requires multiple fixtures or multiple setups. Now for this example, let's say the very first setup, we have this part chucked up in a vise, and we're going to do the thread milling in the pocket here, and we'll do the engraving. And then for the next setup, we're going to take the part out of the vise, put it on a tooling plate, and then profile the outside to finish that. Okay, so kind of a typical scenario that you might run into. Now I already have some machining operations for effectively our first setup, and this is where we have the part chucked up in a vise. In fact, you can think of the group, all these machining operations, as being the first setup. If you'd like, you can take your cursor and just double click on the toolpath group, and if you want, you could rename that. In fact, why don't we call this setup 1, and I'll call this how about vise, and I'll type in Fidel for Fidel machine tool, and we'll click OK. So that renames it, so that's a lot more descriptive for us. And you can see that I'm already using a Fidel post. You can see that in the small letters right there. Alright, so let's say that that's the first operation, the first setup. That's all done, and now what we want to do is machine the second setup. Well, to make another setup, it's very simple. Just come over to the NC Manager and right-hand mouse click and select New Group. So there's a brand new group. Now everything that we do here, all the machining operations that we accumulate are all grouped within this group right here, and when we post-process, it's going to create a program for just that. Now I think we said that we wanted to use a Bridgeport post-processor for our second setup. You don't have to actually select the post now, but I think I'll get that out of the way. I'll come over here, and why don't we just grab the very first Bridgeport that comes up. In fact, let's give this another name. We'll call this setup 2, and I'll call this plate for fixture plate, and this is going to be a Bridgeport machine tool. So we're just naming the group here. So there you go. There's the brand new name. If we pull this out a little bit, so there's our description. Now let's profile the outside. So we're going to come down here. I'm going to go a little fast here because we've already talked about profiling in a couple other videos, but I'm selecting the geometry. This is going to be turret position number 4, let's say. There's our RPM. Coolant's on. The feed rate looks good. I'm happy with that tool. My clearances all look great. We're going to machine this at minus 15 millimeters. I don't need to worry about this because I'm going to take it all in one pass. So I've got my rough depths unchecked. We're going to take it all in one pass and leave 0 on the side. And again, I'm speeding up, kind of going fast here, but we've already covered these options before. So I'll click Finish, and there we go. There's the profiling. So now I have two groups, and you can keep adding more groups if you'd like. You might have more fixtures or more setups. And what's nice is if I post-process a program right now, if I right-click up, there's a couple ways to post-process, or there's a couple ways to create CNC programs. You can right-click and select Post Group. That's one technique, and then hit Post, and that's going to create a CNC program for the Bridgeport. I'm just going to call the CNC program Setup 2. We'll click Save. Okay, so here's the first program, and this is for the Bridgeport, and it's only for just this one setup. All right, let's close this down. Now what if we want to create our program for setup 1? Just take your cursor and left click on the group, and then right hand mouse click and select Activate Group. Now you'll see that turns orange. That means that this is the active group, so if I post process or create a CNC program, it's only going to create a program for these operations that are within that group. So again, the couple ways to create a CNC program, you can right hand mouse click and select Post Group, or you can simply just double click that and then make sure you've got the right post processor and hit Post, and I'm going to call this one Setup 1. And we'll click Save for there. And now we have a CNC program that was generated for a Fidel machine tool, and it was for our very first setup. So working with multiple setups and fixtures, very, very simple and easy to use within OneCNC. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.